So it's my pleasure, obviously, doing this panel with those great fighters, and to be with all of you is obviously a pleasure and a privilege. But it's also my distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is a friend and mentor of mine. He recruited me to write for Breitbart London about Poland and Europe and some of the things that we even talked about a few years ago. And I've gotten to know him very, very well, and I've spent time with him on War Room. I know he doesn't need much of an introduction. You know, Trump's chief strategist, an absolute legend who helped inculcate in Trump the important values of this new movement that merged some of the right and left and took their sclerosis and made a new vibrant movement with populist nationalist conservatism and things like economic nationalism and America First foreign policy. That Bannon's impact on this country via his impact on Trump cannot be overstated. So he's actually going to break some news here today when he talks to you guys. This is the first time he's making a statement since some news broke, and he wanted me to read this tweet from Rick Wilson. You guys all know Rick Wilson. Can I get some booze? Thank you. Thank you for those who participated in that exercise. So Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project, some of the swampiest grifters in the history of the grifting swamp that we know as Washington, D.C. So he just tweeted a few minutes ago that he has some bad news, that after multiple calls, I have some grim news. As of now, the 1-6 Commission is dead already and will not enforce the subpoenas. Trump wins. The 1-6 terror plot will go unexamined and unpunished. To say I'm livid is putting it mildly. And then he goes on and pontificates with the BS that he usually does. Trump, the allies who have been subpoenaed are not going to comply with the subpoenas. Bannon is obviously at the very center of this debate and this drama, and he's with us right now, and he's going to tell you guys a little bit more about it. So you're watching some news-breaking stuff from the general. I call him Rasputin sometimes. Henry Higgins, if any of you know Pygmalion. So the man, the legend, Steve Bannon.
You need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Really, I want to thank AMPFest. Very honored to be asked to join, and particularly since I think all of my co-hosts, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller, Jack Posobiec, and of course Natalie Winters, who's probably the best contributor we have on the show. They're all down at AMPFest and will be speakers. I really want to thank everybody for doing this, and thanks for playing the introduction to the show. Look, President Trump, sent a letter to the committee asserting executive privilege, as is his right. And my lawyer, we were very straightforward. We sent a letter to the committee, and I just want to make sure people know we sent a letter to the committee before 5 o'clock yesterday. People were sitting there going, "Oh, is Bannon going to comply now?" We sent a letter to the committee before 5 o'clock yesterday, just saying, "Hey, based upon the letter we've received from President Trump, this looks like an issue that the committee is going to have to settle with President Trump about executive privilege, and we will stand by until we hear from the courts about what the direction of this is going to be." And so there's been no word from the committee, which I kind of take as a tell, given the fact that they leaked the subpoenas to the media before they even served them to our lawyers. I assumed that meant bad news. Now, look, Rick Wilson is, and if you read the whole stream, particularly the last one, which he basically calls the War Room Posse and AMPFest, a group of terrorists, is often wrong on most things, but he's obviously been very, if you've been following this, he's been very close to this committee, and he's very upset. Look, whether they try to enforce the subpoenas or not is beyond me. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I understand it's big constitutional questions, but I think there is a lesson here, and I think it's a lesson across the board. We had Chris Rufo on the show today about CRT. And one of the arguments we're making is that if you look across the board, as you're seeing the implosion of the Biden regime. And remember, elections have consequences, but stolen elections have catastrophic consequences. And you're seeing what, less than a year from November 3rd, and what, 9 or 10 months into this administration, it is absolutely imploding across the pollings across every demographic, every geographic area of the country. His numbers, and really because of independence or the proxy for the American people right now, his numbers are in the mid to low 30s and sometimes the high 20s. So never in political history have you seen an implosion of this. And this doesn't even add in the horrible economic news from today. Look, Biden has us in complete stagflation, right? Inflation out of control. You now have, we're kind of stuck in this unemployment mess. You've got labor participation rates dropping. At the same time, they're trying to triple down on spending, and the spending is an orgy of spending allowed by these feckless, hapless Republicans who refuse to stand up to the Democrats. But across the board, where you're seeing this new wave of populism, applied populism, you're seeing that whether it's about election officials, you're seeing whether it's about precinct committeemen, you're seeing whether it's about school boards, any aspect of American life, the old Catholic political construct of subsidiarity, that the way to govern best is to get down to the lowest possible levels. That's where people have the most control. Where you're seeing this patriots and populists in this movement, the MAGA movement, actually go to Republican Party precinct committees or go to school boards and contest whether it's vaccine mandates, whether it's mask mandates, or whether it's critical race theory at these school boards, where you see them going and volunteering to be an election official and not just poll watchers. What they want to be in the counting room now. They want to be an actual election official as their right. Where you're seeing democracy with the small d actually being applied, the regime is in complete meltdown. They understand they can't win the intellectual argument. They can't. The American people see through this, completely see through it. Just look at the math. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers both on the economy and look at the numbers on the polling. And there's a correlation, right? This is just not about Afghanistan. This is just not about this invasion on our southern border. This is about an administration they weren't told was going to be this radical, right? And they certainly didn't know was this incompetent. And they're rejecting it. They're rejecting it out of hand. Here's the tell. Today, the Hill newspaper said the quiet part out loud. The lead story in the Hill was that the Democrats fear internally, as they've done polling, the rise of Trump, and that Trump is going to run in 2024 and will run the tables in 2024. That's directly correlates with the 6th January committee, the commission, right? This is the whole commission is to basically get to Trump, to basically, bring criminal charges against Trump, show that Trump's an insurrectionist, show that he's a revolutionary. Where the American people are not buying that. They've totally lost attention. They're not paying attention at all. And the reason is they understand that what's in front of the country is more important than this made up pantomime that you're seeing at this committee. Remember, I advocated along with Darren Beattie. I think Darren Beattie is going to be one of the speakers over the weekend. I was a big advocate of having a real commissioner with real Republican participation, because I wanted to get to the bottom of what the New York Times keeps reporting is the involvement of FBI informants. This is not War Room, and it's not National Pulse with Raheem Kassam. It's not Revolver News with Darren Beattie or Human Events with Jack Posobiec. This is the New York Times talking about FBI informants. It's BuzzFeed magazine, website talking about 12 of the 18 participants in the plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer in Michigan were FBI informants, government informants. There's also reporting that the Capitol Hill police had informants. So that's what I wanted, a commission that got to the bottom of everything, particularly what the FBI knew and when did they know it? And why wasn't there security up there? Who in the chain of command knew that? I thought there should be a full vetting of that, right? I thought there should be a full vetting of that, but brains bigger than mine and people in charge decided it wasn't. And so with this committee, when they did what they did, it's President Trump's lawyers have made the determination that they're going to exert executive privilege, and we'll see how that plays out. But the point is that the regime, anywhere that the people in applied populism, whether it's patriots in Arizona that are going to do a full forensic audit. Remember, on May 5th, the woman, I think her name's Carlin, who was one of the witnesses as a professor, I think it was at Stanford at the first impeachment trial. She's now Deputy Attorney General. She sends a letter, right, approved by Merrick Garland on May 5th, that essentially says to the Senate out there, said, hey, we've seen your contract with the group that's going to do the audit, and it shows that there's going to be a canvas. Remember, it's a canvas, not the count. It's not all votes count. It's all legal, certifiable, chain of custody from an American citizen. Those votes count. That's democracy, not just all these phony ballots and fake ballots that the Democrats consistently throw into elections to try to throw them. It's the canvas, not the count. They said, hey, we're going to bring criminal charges against anybody who participates in a canvas. Just like yesterday, because people are understand about critical race theory, and they will not have this poison put in their children's minds. Just like they, as American citizens, want informed consent, are debating about the mask for their children and the vaccines for their children, as is their right as American citizens. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, right? I'm certainly vaccine hesitant because I think that natural immunity is really what gets us to herd immunity. And I haven't heard any argument against that, particularly when people are talking jab after jab after jab after jab. So that the American mothers, the moms of America are doing it. You have this group that represents the school boards, puts in some complaint, a letter, and 24 hours later, which shows you they've been working on a while, a perfectly thought through, with all references, letter comes from the Department of Justice telling the FBI that the American mothers are domestic terrorists. This is how they're losing the argument, but this is also how they're going to weaponize the entire apparatus to come after you, because this is why AMPFest is important. You're the vanguard. You're the vanguard. I talked the other day, gave this speech, they melted down about shock troops. People of the 4,000 appointees that we have in the government, 1,000 have to get Senate confirmation. Of those 4,000, we have to be ready to go this time. Because understand something, we're going to win a sweeping victory in 2022. If we keep our shoulder to the wheel, this illegitimate regime, and it's not me saying it's illegitimate, 42% of independent voters by The Economist magazine in their poll question the legitimacy of Biden and how he won the election. And particularly now people are saying, hey, these radical plans, I didn't know the spending plan was going to be there. I didn't know it was going to be $6 trillion, right? I didn't know it was going to be anything like this, right? He never told me that. As more of this comes along, more questions start, and he continues to create. He has no political capital. The only thing keeping Biden alive is the uniparty apparatus of Mitch McConnell and these. And that's why we need you. We need AMPFest. I understand it's culture, and culture up forever from politics. And also, there's not a lot of elective politics. There's not as much as some of these other conferences, and that's fine. But you are the vanguard of this movement. Okay, you're the vanguard. You're the most savvy culturally, the most savvy with social media, and that's what won it for us in 2016. The Mike Cernoviches of the world, those individuals who understood both culture, kind of they were the modern day representation of Andrew Breitbart, who was the first guy that made Twitter big. And Andrew came up with the phrase "culture is upstream from politics," because Andrew understood by studying the Frankfurt School, right? And study at Cloward Piven. He understood cultural Marxism better than anybody. Herbert Marcuse, he learned it at Tulane University, where he was an American Studies major. He says, hey, they basically try to teach me how to hate America. So it's Andrew Breitbart's legacy, and that's what Matthew Tyrmand represents, and is kind of part of that unbroken chain of the great Andrew Breitbart. But that is you. That is what AMPFest is. It's both culture and politics. But listen, we need you at the vanguard in 2022. This is all going to get down to trench warfare. And that's what we need, a sweeping victory. Right now, we could win 52, 62 seats. We could have a victory in 2022 as big as we had at the Tea Party revolt. And they understand that. That's where they're quaking. Look at the Hill newspaper today. Complete implosion. As they see the numbers implode, they see the economy implode. They see the invasion on the southern border. They see the rise of the terrorist superstate in Afghanistan, all of that. Okay? It's imploding. That's why it's so important. We need AMPFest shoulder at the wheel. And we need you guys to basically, continue to hit on all cylinders. And that's why I'm so glad that Jack Posobiec's down there, Raheem Kassam, Natalie Winters, Jason was there this morning, Matthew Tyrmand. You're in good hands, but you are absolutely essential. You're essential to taking this country back, and not just taking this country back, but getting this country back on the right track. We're going to take this country, of that there's no doubt. Remember, since President Nixon, we have won more elections. We've won more presidential elections. We've won more Senate seats, more House seats, governorships, state representatives, all that. We've won more elections, and we lost our country in the process. What we need in the future is to win elections with people, the right people and the right policies. And that's AMPFest. I'm very honored to be here, Matthew, and I really appreciate you guys changing the schedule around, but we're going to continue to fight. Remember, we focus on fights that matter, and the fights that matter is saving this great republic and handing it down to future generations, the same republic that was bequeathed to us, not this disaster that the illegitimate Biden regime is trying to turn it into. So thank you guys very much.
Take down the CCP. Follow me and I'ma set us free. Take down the CCP. Let me tell you what I've been through, baby. Live the life that